welcome everyone to another weekly Wednesday workshop with the Sending Tribe. We have an incredible speaker on this week. Sophia Tara is going to be taking us through looking beyond the illusion. And I just want to remind everyone that this session is recorded. However, during the Q&A towards the end, if you don't feel comfortable speaking to Sophia directly for the questions, you can type your questions in the chat box below. Sophia, would you like to introduce yourself and take it away?
Hello everyone, brothers and sisters. I'm very honored to be here. I'm very happy to be with you today. And actually, when I was reached out to come and join here, I thought it would be a nice opportunity for us all to grow our family. So we will discuss the reason that we aren't united as one today, and why it's so important to be united as one in this time. So if we speak conventionally in terms of time and space, in terms of years, in terms of quantity, then we could say that this is actually a turning point for humanity, for the collective dream, for the collective projection. What we're going through currently is a turning point, is a peak, like this. We're about to turn over the tip. Our freedom is being attacked in every single moment, in all different ways. Through the food, through the television, through the music, through the symbols, through the architecture, through the history, through the education, through the pharmaceutical industries. Everywhere you look, and in every single moment, you have a decision. You have a choice. You can either conform, submit to what is being fed to you, spoon-fed. Submit and conform to what the system wants to make of you, which is basically a human colony. Or you can defend principles, values. You can honor your soul. You can honor your freedom. You can honor your freedom of expression. This choice by free will in this realm, and free will is a law within this realm. This realm abides by the law of free will. And you have the power and the decision in every single moment to choose the latter. And if humanity, to be honest with you, had been choosing the latter in each moment, then we wouldn't be where we are today. And it's very fine. It's okay that we're here where we are. This is also aligned with divine justice. This is also aligned with divine timing. Everything is just, everything is fair in this cosmos. There's nothing that's not fair. It would only be unfair to perhaps a divided identity's perception of it, a separate self's perception. As one, however, everything is perfectly fine just as it is. But speaking conventionally, as I said, I have to point out that we have chosen as a collective, as humanity, we have consistently chosen the hard road, the path of suffering in order to learn. And I'm here to remind us, right now in this moment, that we don't have to suffer to learn our lessons. We can choose the easy path. And what's the easy path? First of all, I must remind, as above, so below, as within, so without. The one manifests in all, and all, everything is one. So based upon this truth, if everything is one, if we are all manifestations, expressions of the same one consciousness, cosmic intelligence, divine wisdom, if we are all extensions, reflections of this one, reflections of one another, therefore, then where exactly are these powers who are trying to control you? Where exactly? Are there any external figures, political, economic, religious figures, truly in control here? As within, so without. Or are they reflections of what we've been holding within us for all these years, as a collective, in the collective dream? The external battle is none but a reflection of the internal battle. Between who? Between the egoic sense of self, sense of identity, sense of me against you, me and you, being separate, and between simply experiencing unity, as every single other being and element does in this existence, except for the human currently. Experiencing unity and recognizing our true nature, our eternal nature, our free nature, our nature which extends far beyond time and space and all perceptions, conceptions, matrices of the mind, and of what the mind has built around who we are and what we are. The brainwashing educational system is there to remind us that we have consistently allowed ourselves to be brainwashed by an egoic sense of identity. False history is there to remind us that we have constantly allowed ourselves to believe in time, to believe in battlefields, to believe in division, in separation, in two rather than one. Isn't it time to take responsibility? Isn't it time to release everything we've learned and that we think we know about the system we live in? And beyond that, because yeah, someone can easily log on to Google and start searching conspiracy theories and realize, yes, everything I've been taught is a lie. But is that the solution? It's not. Because still, even then, it's me against these conspiracies. It's me against this system which has lied to me. Brothers and sisters, the only truth is that you are that system that has lied to you. The one manifests in all, and all is one. There is no one outside of you. Everything is a manifestation of you as divine cosmic wisdom. Everything is your reflection showing you something. The only illusion is the one in which we have formed this identity, which needs to be protected, which needs to be shown and expressed, and this is who I am, and this is my age, and this is my gender, and this is my race, and this is my education, and this is my background, and this is my upbringing, and these are my traumas, and these are my good memories, and these are my skills and talents and likes and dislikes. Who are you? That isn't even real. None of it is real. The only real thing here is that you are eternal. You are infinite. You are everything and nothing at the very same moment. Only this moment exists. Only now exists. And the only battle taking place is the one in here, between choosing to remember this in every moment and stop being pulled around like a bull by the ego and the identity and what it tells you to believe about yourself and the image it's formed about yourself and the image society has reflected to you about yourself, and choosing true nature. Everything else is a dream. And once you can see that the only battlefield is this one in here, and once you can see that the only battle is the one taking place between remembering and choosing ignorance and choosing comfort and choosing convenience and choosing division and identity, then, yes, please, go. Speak for the people. Share the truth. Expose the governments. Go against the restrictions and the measures. Do all these things. But unless you're doing these things upon the foundation of remembrance of your true nature and remembrance of unity, then quite simply it's hypocrisy. Quite simply, the words are not supported energetically by your true experience of what you feel inside you. Because is it any better to be at war with a system of control than to be at war between two countries, or at war between races, or at war between political parties? Is it any different? The free people against the government. The spirit star seeds against the reptilians. Yes, on one level, in one dimension, these things exist. They're very real. But if you just choose to take one step higher and peek over the edge and see the view, you'll see that all of you are manifestations of the same one truth. And this view up here, that's the only one that will liberate you. And this truth up here requires releasing everything you thought you knew until now. Remembrance isn't memory. It doesn't have to do with memory. Remembrance doesn't have to do with remembering a fact or a theory or an affirmation. Remembrance is a virtue, and what it means is simply letting go of anything else that's illusion. It means shedding the layers of this identity and this duality and these constructs of space, time, identity, persona, in order to truly exist, just be. That's freedom. And that remembrance is the only form of revolution. And once you're in that remembrance with consistency every single moment, then when you do choose to take an active role in this earthly revolution, as a battle, as a warrior of light, which I do also, then you'll be doing it on a foundation of truth. You'll be doing it completely lucidly, with awareness that you are actively now going into the dream to act lucidly, to take a role, to play a part in this play within the dream without getting lost in it. So what I ask of you today, brothers and sisters, and honestly, I could speak of this for hours, we could go on. Because as I keep talking, more keeps coming like that. But because we keep it short now, what I ask of you is to just unlearn everything. Let everything go. what you thought of yourself, what you thought of others, what you think of the system you live in. Everything, every preconception, every construct. Get naked, so to speak. Shed your identity. Let it go. Expose it. Embarrass it. Because it's not you. And once you reconnect with the true you by unlearning this false sense of self, once you reconnect with the true self, which is infinite, which is the same essence of which I am made, of which you are made, of which your neighbor and your neighbor's dog and the neighbor's dog's cousin, it's all the same essence. Once you remember that essence, then there will be nothing to connect with. There will be nothing to be free from. Must align with my higher self. No, you will be in your higher self at all times. Let go. Don't be afraid. Let go of what you think you know about yourself in order to remember your infinite self. And only then do you rise above the level of karma and you become immortal. Because mortality is limited to the realm of physicality. The physical body is mortal, so to speak. Which in fact it isn't even mortal, it simply changes form. The physical body is what changes form, is what dies, so to speak. So when you remember that you are beyond your physical body, you cannot die, because dying is limited to the realm from which you have ascended, which you have risen past by remembering your true nature. You align with the truth of your soul, you become immune, immortal, timeless. And tell me, from that position, what system can affect you? No system can touch you. Because you know that you are that system. It's like you ever seen people getting in fights? Someone gets in a fight with the other person. They start insulting them and yelling and, oh, you son of a, oh, you did this and la la la. Imagine if the person fought back. You have two people fighting. Now imagine if the other person who's being yelled at just turns around and says, actually doesn't say anything, just pulls out a mirror and shows them a mirror. And they just see themselves yelling. That's what you're doing to the political, economic, and religious structures supposedly in control. By remembering that you are them and they are you, that all is one, you're holding up a mirror. You become almighty. Nothing can touch you when you recognize the one truth above all other truths, that you are one with all. Unlearning doesn't require removing things like that. You don't have to do anything. You just have to simply bring into your remembrance in each moment, bring into your consciousness, bring into your sphere of thought in each moment this one truth, that the one manifests in all and all is one. And everything you perceive around you is your mirror. It's all you have to remember, and you're free. If you remember it every single moment, you're free. And if you remember it every single moment, consistently, every day, every moment, and still you aren't liberated, then come back. Come back and, what is it called? They say for products, get your money back. Come back and tell me, you know what? That truth didn't liberate me, actually. But in order to say that to me, I want you to have applied it every moment of every day, all the time, remembering that you're one with everything. And then if that doesn't liberate you, you come back. but I can guarantee it will liberate you. And that's what awakening is. Awakening doesn't mean sitting under a Bodhi tree and suddenly Shakti climbs up your spine and you start seeing colors and auras. Yeah, that can happen too, okay? But awakening is simply the state of remembering this truth in every single moment, embodying this truth. That's what awakening is. So, there's no better time to awaken than now. There's no better time to remember your true nature than now. Like that. It's that easy. It's in your hands. I have faith in all of you. Those who are listening here now, and those who aren't here, because the truth is that from the moment that we are addressing the soul, which right now that is what I'm doing, then every soul can hear. So I'm not just speaking to you who are here physically. You are here physically, yes. Your mind is aware, your mind is also hearing. So you have conscious awareness of this conversation. But the field we have created here addresses all souls. So may this message of truth and this seed truly go into every single heart and blossom. That's all from me for now. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Thank you so much, Sophia. I really, really loved that, how you just got to the point. You made it very, very clear. And you made something that people find, or people make very difficult. You made it very easy to perceive, I guess. I have a lot of questions, actually. I did write a lot of questions down, but I just want to see if anyone else has some questions first. They either would like to ask you directly, or they can type in the chat box. You can come off mute if you'd like to ask Sophia directly. Okay, I'm going to go ahead anyway, because I wrote so many questions down. Because I understand how simple you make it seem, however, life still happens to us. So let's say we do apply the mirror perspective on life, but life still very much happens to us. So how are we supposed to respond to happening? Is it, do we just perceive it and say, okay, that's happening because of how I'm acting or how I'm feeling or how I'm being, and now that has manifested in what I'm experiencing in life. Okay, so now how do I respond to this?
If you do it that way, you might go crazy.
Okay.
If you try and approach this with the mind, and you try and make the mind analyze it and cut it up and box it and package it and serve it and comprehend it, you might go crazy, yes. The mind has no place here in this truth. This is simply a fact. Whether your mind can grasp the fact that you're one with everything or not has no bearing on the simple fact that you are one with everything. So you don't have to go into every situation in everyday life and think that this is so, and do these mathematical equations to see what you need to do from this. You simply observe it. Okay, life's happening to me right now. This person and this exchange is taking place. This happened with work. Okay, you still play a role. I'm not saying take to the mountains and go sit in a cave for the rest of your life and your years. Interact with everyday life, yes, but recognize that life isn't happening to you. It's not life and you, two separate things. It's one. It's simply the flow of being. It's just the way that the narrative is panning out. It's the way that it's unfolding. So it's not that you have to see it as, okay, life is happening to me now. Everyday life still goes on. Yes, but it's not spirituality on one hand, and Zen, oneness, unity, and then on the other hand, life is happening. It's not two separate realities. Life is part of that spiritual truth. The everyday life is part of that spiritual truth. And in fact, if you were living in a cave, I'd say, well, it's easy to believe this truth if you're living isolated. It's when you apply it into everyday life that you truly become a master of yourself. When you can actually apply observing without getting entangled emotionally in what's going on, observing from a slight distance, spectator, observing what's happening to you, then you're stepping out of that identification. You're not drowning in it. You've taken a step outside of the grid of the matrix. The matrix isn't physical. Leaving the matrix doesn't mean leaving the city. Leaving the matrix means zooming out slightly and seeing from a bird's eye view all of this reality that you're so entangled in, thinking that it's happening to you. So the solution is observing without judgment, observing without criticism, observing without emotional attachment.
But we will still feel anger, right, sometimes at some situations, and upset and frustration. Do we still feel those then? Because we are
Yes,
here human experience, yeah?
yes, you feel them, but if you're observing, then you don't identify with them. Anger might come up, don't judge it. But if you're observing properly, then you're also observing the anger. You see, because the anger is also part of that identity. The anger is also part of the matrix.
Well, how about you mentioned about not getting comfortable, right? And basically from my journey, what I've been learning is that discomfort is where the growth is. Discomfort is where the evolution is. Discomfort is where the learning is. Would you advise or suggest that we seek discomfort regularly?
Yes, but you can also learn from a place of comfort, in the sense that you can also be very comfortable in the discomfort. It doesn't have to be discomfort. You can also be very comfortable with changes happening to you in life. Because if you're not identified with these things and with your perception of these things, then it's not uncomfortable at all. You embrace this kind of slightly, maybe not so familiar feeling, this change. So if you're looking at it from that perspective, then yes, go after it, but not, programming yourself into thinking that you have to be uncomfortable in order to grow. Otherwise, life will continue bringing you hard situations. because you believe that you have to go through hardship in order to grow. But yes, you can embrace them. You don't have to seek them out and once and for all be only uncomfortable in order to grow, but you can also embrace. When it does come along, observe and move forth. Indeed, discomfort helps us grow. But we don't have to grow the long way or the hard way. We can also grow just by remembering the truth I shared with you. And then it's all done. The rest is done. If it isn't done in that moment, it's because we still hold on to something.
So this current situation that we're going through at the moment, this is more of a collective situation, isn't it? So we have our individual mirror from our individual human experience, I guess.
Yes.
And our collective mirror, right?
Yes. Yes.
So how do
Yes,
we
this is
deal
the
with
collective reflection. Yes.
how do we respond to both of those then? Because obviously we have, yeah, go on.
The collective projection cannot happen if first did not precede the individual projection. Because the collective projection is made up of millions of individual projections. So the collective projection, illusion, appeared when everyone started projecting that illusion, and then it became collective. The current became strong enough that it manifested collectively as an egregor, as a mass illusion. So the same way we started it, we can end it. It always starts individually. And I always use the example of the life-saving device. What is it called in the planes? You know, the mask, the oxygen mask. They always say to put it on your own face first. This isn't, random or symbolic. It's practical. For practical reasons, you have to save yourself before you can go and help anyone else. In the same way, on a bigger scale, for practical reasons, you have to first unlearn everything you thought about yourself and release the illusion within yourself and start to actually know thyself before the collective projection can begin to change. It all starts with you individually.
And is this why we're going to be experiencing, or that I feel that we kind of are already experiencing a split in reality? There's like a split going on at the moment where, we're us working on ourselves, and we're really like looking deep and trying to resolve things and be and heal and grow. So therefore it's creating a completely different direction in reality. And obviously the ones that aren't very conscious of their own situation, they're very much deep in the illusion, and it's kind of creating a deeper, darker illusion on the other side, if that makes sense. Does it make sense what I'm saying?
Yes, this is what you're describing as quantum physics, actually.
Okay.
So what we have is different quantum realities. We have literally different realms of consciousness. Aside from the known ones, astral realm, mental realms, the physical realm, we also have simultaneously different perceptions of reality. On a small scale and on a large scale. On a small scale, I could say to you that this water here in this cup is boiling hot to me, and to you it feels lukewarm. We have a different sense of what heat means. That already is an example that we are in two different realities. Someone who's colorblind might see blue as a different color, and we're both calling it blue, but we're living in two different realities of what blue means. And in the same way, every single human has their own perception of what's currently happening. That's why we can say that there's no real truth, there's no objective truth. Because Right now, there are those who are completely living in fear, in a fear vibration within society, ready to submit, ready to enslave themselves, ready to sell their souls. And then there are others who are seeing things and they don't want to take part in that, and they want to make a change. These two, let's say these two, but there's actually many more subgroups of these. But these two, as an example, are experiencing two completely different realities. One is feeling liberation and freedom from this whole circumstance, and the other is feeling constraint and fear from the same exact supposed reality. So yes, there is a split in consciousness, very much so.
But it's very much possible to come together, isn't it? And what I mean by that is there are some people, saying that I believe that some people aren't meant to wake up and some people are meant to go down that route. But actually, when we're talking about quantum physics, well, the possibilities are endless. So there are obviously possibilities where we are all becoming conscious and growing and all getting onto the same, all creating kind of same collective reality. It doesn't have to be split.
Yes, it's possible, of course. But of course, at the same time, even if not everyone wakes up, so to speak, the absolute truth is that the one manifests in all and all is one. This isn't just a phrase we say because it sounds nice. This is the truth. Which means that even if the phenomena show that someone's awake and the other one isn't, is there really awake and not awake if the one manifests in all and all is one? Is there really the ones who are fighting and the ones who are not fighting? The truth is that there's nothing to fight and there's nothing to wake up from, and everything always has been, is, and will be perfect. Just as it is. On this level of existence, if humanity chooses to remember, yes, everyone can wake up, of course. But it's okay if not everyone does. It's okay if not everyone remembers in this lifetime. It's okay because they're one with you. All it takes is for one person to wake up. That's all we need. If one wakes up, all have woken up. One is all. Even if the perception, the phenomena show something else. That's simply the narrative. That's simply the projection. It's simply the dream. The absolute truth is that we've already all been awake since the beginning of time, and we are awake. Some perceptions, some minds simply forgot that because of what they learned about themselves.
It seems there are moments that I oscillate a lot in my life, possibly because I'm not quite out of the matrix system, and I know we've spoken about that before, but I oscillate between what you were talking about earlier, having this higher perspective, looking above and seeing everything from the top. I have that momentarily. I don't have it all the time, but what I feel from you is that you live in that higher perspective more often than not. How did you get to that point?
mm, by unlearning everything I thought I knew, and considering that I know nothing, and accepting to be a student of life, and then devoting my entire existence to my highest mission, my entire existence at any cost, sacrificing comforts, sacrificing ego, what I thought about myself, what I believe to be true. That's how. Not being afraid to sacrifice this precious self-identity. And then shedding those layers, heavy layers. And once those are shed, nothing remains but the truth. And then it's funny.
Yes, Yenny. Unmute and you can, of course, you can ask Sophia a question.
I think I really resonate with what you said, and yeah, it's quite beautiful to reach that point. But like with saying reaching that point of where you are in your divine mission, and you're saying that it comes with a level of sacrifice and sacrificing comforts and kind of like shedding a lot of the ego. But how do you, when I think of that, I kind of feel as if like, I don't think the purpose, and this is just kind of my perspective, that is necessarily to completely shed the ego. Like, I would want to ask, like, what is your view on kind of, since we're having the human experience, we also need to value that human experience in a sense that our shadow is just as much a part of us as our love and our light. And our main, the way that I see things is that kind of like our main thing should be to integrate it, and that actually the ego isn't necessarily a bad thing, that the ego is actually just the expression of the soul itself. And I'm just kind of like, because I feel like a lot of people have different perspectives on this, like whether or not to kind of rid your ego or whether or not to actually kind of work with it. I would want to kind of, yeah, like what's your perspective on that, since you obviously brought up kind of like the sacrifice of it. So I just wanted to ask you that question because I thought it was interesting.
You did the right thing asking. Ego is not a bad thing or a good thing. It's not even a thing. It's an illusion that the mind identifies with. It's not a bad thing if you don't identify with it. If you identify with it, then I suppose it can be viewed as bad because you're not really experiencing truth. You're experiencing this world and this human experience from a limited angle of a divided self. So yes, it's important to value the human experience, but the human experience doesn't mean living in the limited, isolated box of the ego. The human experience is much more valuable if we can experience it from a sense of oneness. And sacrificing ego doesn't mean we push it into a drawer down there on the bottom and hide from it. Embracing our shadow is fine as long as you're not identifying with it. So what we mean here is just like the roots of a tree. You have a tree, right? Here. This tree here. You have this tree here. You see the roots down here? These roots are what are feeding the branches. Now these roots are normally underground, right? So the ground is here. These roots are feeding the branches. If these roots were not pumping nutrients and things from the soil, the branches would eventually dry and die. So no, the point is not to kill our ego. The point is not to cut ourselves from cut the root. If you cut the root, the whole tree falls. The point is simply to turn it in service of our higher self. And until you have shed the layers, until you have looked it in the eye and stopped identifying with it, you cannot turn it in service of your higher self. Because you're believing that that's your reality. That's like being the worm in the ground and thinking that this root is everything, never seeing the branches. unless you get above the soil and look down and say, ha ha ha, actually that was only 2% of my reality. Look at the rest. Then you can be free and use those roots to pump nutrients into the tree. Until you've seen the whole truth, until you've seen the truth, which requires unseeing the lie, removing the glasses and the lens of the lie, until you've seen that truth, then you cannot actually be free and choose to identify or not with it. So yes, first you have to die completely. You have to shed all the layers, die as you thought you were. Then you can be reborn.
Well, Sarah has a question. There's another question here. Oh, Yenny said, thank you. Agree, beautifully said. Thank you for that. Sarah says, how do we trust everything is perfect as it is and not to fight for freedoms with the current circumstances in the physical?
No. I am not rooting for not fighting for freedom. I'm a freedom fighter myself. Simply, you must fight for freedom on the foundation that everything is perfect as it is. Because if one is all and all is one, then where is imperfection? Who's perceiving it as imperfect? The one who's standing outside, judging and looking in. Imperfection only exists in the lens of separateness. In reality, everything is perfect. Whether the mind perceives it as ugly or pretty, hard or easy, evil or good, it's still perfection. Otherwise, it wouldn't be allowed to exist by cosmic intelligence. So you know that truth, and from that perspective, you go and play a lucid, conscious role in the fight. I'm on the battlefield too, you know. But I know where I stand on the battlefield. And that's what is a wise decision, which I would recommend for you to apply as well.
I'm really intrigued how, can you go into a little bit more about your way of freedom fighting? Is it the way you respond, basically?
My biggest way of freedom fighting is by remembering what my truth is each moment, whether I'm speaking or not. And the next, I have criteria which are aligned with divine wisdom in each moment. My criteria is refined. I can see when something's a lie, and I choose not to be fed lies, whether it's by the system or by any system, internally or externally, by the ego or by the government. It's the same thing. They're reflections of one another. So I simply continue to live my truth, and whoever doesn't like it, their problem. If I don't want to wear a mask, I'm not going to wear one. And I stand firmly in my truths. But I also have discernment. You must also have discernment. When you fight, don't fight for the sake of fighting, not revolution for the sake of revolution. Fight for the sake of the benefit of all beings only. Expand that vision.
So have the perception that you are free.
Yes.
We are already free.
Exactly.
And live as we are free.
Exactly. That's the biggest revolution, to remember that you are free already and always have been and always will be. Perfect.
Thank you so much, Sophia. I really, really appreciate your time and sharing your wisdom and your experiences. It was so, so powerful. Thank you so much.
It's an honor. Thank you as well.
I look forward to connecting with you soon.
Yes, you too. Thank you.
All the best. Thank you, Sophia.